Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you to overcome disordered eating and find peace with food. So today I'm going to do something a bit different, and I wanted to talk about some of my inspirational role models in my life who have hugely helped me on my journey of personal development, to inspire me with recovery, to help me believe what is possible with life, and to generally help me to be a better human. Okay, so let's dive in. So firstly, my grandmother. So in her early 80s, my grandmother was still driving around in her white Ford Escort, once even getting caught for speeding, can you believe it, and delivering Meals on Wheels to the elderly in the village, even though she was older than most of them. And she would kindly lend me her car to pick up friends and go clubbing when I'd just passed my driving test. And the car revved proud and loud, as did my grandmother. And she was very opinionated and bordering on interfering and intrusive at times, but always interested in asking questions, and she absolutely had my back. My grandmother was the matriarch of the family, demonstrating deep generosity and sociability, gathering the family together with her enthusiasm and bossiness. And she had magnetic charisma and did not hold back in her demonstrations of affection. And we knew that she cared. She played all kinds of card games with us, along with 1980s gems such as Frustration and Connect 4. And she took the time to get to know us, that's my sisters and I, individually, and to be genuinely involved in our lives. And my grandmother loved dressing up and was always in the pursuit of a new frock, as she would describe it. And I recall waiting patiently in the changing rooms of our local department store as she stepped out in various outfits, flamboyantly showing off and appreciating her body. And she did not have the slim, socially acceptable silhouette imprinted on us in various reincarnations through the decades. She had curves and was labelled stocky and rotund by various fat-phobic relatives. But did she care? No way. She stepped proudly out in her finest gowns, unapologetically and always with a smile. She stood tall, and her energy filled the room with embracing warmth and empowerment. So recently, my sister unearthed this photo of my grandmother on her moped. So if you're listening to the podcast version of this, you may want to click on the link in the show notes to my Substack, and you can see the photo of my grandmother on her moped if you're interested. So she worked as a teacher and would zoom along to school, scattering the gravel behind her. But this picture really stopped me in my tracks. It has led me to truly reflect on the people who have inspired me on my life journey thus far. And my grandmother was absolutely one of these people. Someone who encouraged me to take the risk to follow my desires and dream. Someone who could show me what was possible if I believed and kept putting one foot in front of the other. As humans, I believe that it's extremely valuable to have role models and sources of inspiration. And on an eating disorder recovery journey, having people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead is reassuring. Seeing what's possible can ignite the fire in your belly to pursue your own recovery road. You consider, if they can do it, why not me too? So I'll share now about some of the other amazing humans who have helped to light a fire inside of me. So my cousin Sarah, one of my first serious woman crushes and role models, was my second cousin Sarah. Sarah was 10 years my senior and my horse riding instructress. She ran a stables in the next village. Now, as much as I loved horses, I loved Sarah more. I was pretty mediocre at riding, but it was Sarah's character and teaching that connected profoundly with me. She was the embodiment of encouragement and enthusiasm, and I faintly recognised these qualities in myself and emulated her. I love Sarah with a passion, so when life was difficult at home, the riding stables was a place of sanctuary and safety. She gave me incredible responsibility and deep purpose. At 15 years old, I was employed at the weekends teaching the young riders, and she valued my presence and allowed me the freedom to be creative and playful with the instructing role. I loved the job, and it gave me a springboard of confidence and self-knowing. Unwittingly, I stepped into a more powerful version of myself because of Sarah. So very sadly, Sarah died of cancer 8 years ago, and she was only in her 50s. It was a cruel and unfair end to her extraordinary life. But she had lived her life on this planet authentically and aligned with her passions, and I will always be hugely grateful to the teenage years I spent shaped by her influence. Next person, Fiona Harold. In my early 20s, I decided to train as a therapist. Very much motivated by my wounded healer, bulimia experience, and feeling lost and unsupported. So these were the very early days of the internet. There wasn't all the online inspo and resource that we have at our fingertips today. But self-help books were my fount of knowledge and possibility. Louise Hay, Susan Jeffers, and Tony Robbins were my gurus. These were all early pioneering coaches before coaching was a proper thing. And I discovered Fiona Harold's Be Your Own Life Coach in the early 2000s and devoured the pages time and time again for years. So through her writing, Fiona demonstrates her belief in you wholeheartedly and the possibilities around change. She has a no-nonsense, unapologetic stance which spoke directly to my heart. And at that time, the people in my life told me all the reasons why my dreams were impossible. But Fiona tore up the rulebook and opened up the world of transformation and self-improvement. I consumed her positive messages with sheer delight. Here was someone giving me 100% permission to dream big and step fully into my power. I was on a self-improvement mission. And at 29 years old, I secured my dream job as an eating disorder therapist. And this type of NHS job was not available to therapists on paper, only clinical psychologists. But I had defied the odds and found a way in, based on my own merits and experience. It was liberating. I was naive and green as grass, but my belief shone through. And I look back to some of my earliest therapy experiences with deep fondness. I was fresh from the eating disorder trenches, and this gave me some advantages in relatability and stimulating hope for change. My last person, Julia Roberts. Another wonderful influence in my life has been one of celebrity, namely Julia Roberts. Sadly, I don't actually know her personally. And I would not necessarily wish to have all the qualities of Julia, because I recognise that fame comes with a distinct amount of baggage and conditionality, which I'm not one jot interested in. But for me, it's about capturing the Julia energy and embodying this in daily life. I love Julia's big hair and wide smile. I love her infectious energy and joie de vivre approach to life. And in most film roles, she plays a version of herself with open-heartedness, feistiness, vulnerability, and lovingness. I adore her messiness and imperfection, and the fact that she's taking a different road to aging compared to most Hollywood celebs. If I'm feeling a bit despondent and underwhelmed by life, I think about tapping into Julia Roberts' energy, and I cannot fail to be uplifted. Just thinking about her makes me smile, stand tall, and step into my sassiness. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and who has inspired you on your journey? Which friends, family members, celebrities, inspiring creators, sports people, or anyone else? Yeah, there's no right or wrong here, but when we really tap into the people that inspire us, it helps us to really connect with our deepest values. So I'd really encourage you to have a think about who has been inspirational to you, who inspires you today, and to really use that as fuel to your internal fire to make the changes that you need to make in your life. Well, thank you so much for listening today. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out at the Eating Disorder Therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. If you enjoy this podcast, I will be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.